Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeff Malinoff, and with me, as always, is Mark Souza. We are after the weekend of the trade deadline ending, and we have new teams, some new lineups, basically, and who won and who lost. We'll talk about that. But first things first, 76ers improved with Tobias Harris and are looking to be not just a great team in the East, but maybe an elite team in the East. What are your thoughts on their improvement with the addition of Tobias Harris?
Yeah, I thought that addition was big time near the trade deadline. Now, they get basically, I guess, the last missing puzzle piece to their starting lineup. It's crazy to think about where this team was at the beginning of the season, what their roster looked like, and now they have Jimmy Butler, now they have Tobias Harris. They added Mike Scott off the bench, another good scorer. This team looks very formidable right now, and you could make the argument that this lineup is the best starting lineup in the East and maybe the second best starting lineup in the entire league.
And, of course, behind Golden State, because there's no need to explain. But I totally agree with you. This starting lineup is amazing.
It's stacked.
Yes, and it doesn't. And not too long ago, this was the joke of the NBA. This trust the process thing, and it's worked to perfection. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's worked. And with all of that, it just adds to the fact that this 76ers team could be moving from. It might be. I know the Bucks and Raptors and Pacers are still ahead of them, but I'm not surprised if I predict them to win the East when it comes down to playoff time. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, they're not too far.
Only five games behind Milwaukee.
Yeah, I would say they're probably not going to win the conference just because of there's like 30 games left, maybe a little bit less in the entire season. So I'm looking at Philadelphia. So they have about 26 games left. So maybe not enough games for them to win the conference, but maybe they get the 2 spot, or maybe they just get the 3.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean like the East as in the number 1 seed. I meant like get to the finals.
Oh, yeah. So in the playoffs,
I don't expect to get to the number 1 seed. It could happen. Don't get me wrong, but this team could make a run in the playoffs. That's what I meant. I feel like this team is deep enough for a deep run, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I think they've thrown themselves in the mix for best team in the Eastern Conference, regardless of what the standings say at the end of the year, just because they added Tobias Harris. I mean, you look at this team, Tobias Harris might be the guy, him or Jimmy Butler could help guarding guys like Kawhi, Giannis. Mm-hmm. I just think that right now it's a numbers game, and when you look at Philadelphia's starting 5, and then you look at Milwaukee's starting 5, and then you look at Toronto's starting 5, all 3 very good teams, but Philadelphia might have the best starting 5. We haven't even talked about Joel Embiid.
That's who I wanted to bring up. Joel Embiid is playing at an all-time high. Like he's looked pretty under the radar, all things considered, because of how well everyone else is doing. But he's been playing amazing. Like his game against the Lakers, he had 37 points and 14 rebounds, and
he is the process. Like he embodies
absolutely
the process.
Like and he can go. He could carry a team to a win if he needs to, type of thing. That's how talented he is. And like he's got Butler behind him, and like you said, Ben Simmons. Even if he has an off game, he still contributes. And then Tobias Harris, like we said, and then J.J. Redick is a guy that people really don't look at, but he's been a huge contributor to that starting lineup too.
Oh yeah, he spreads the floor very well. J.J. Redick is a very good complement to the other four players.
I think he should be more looked at as one of the better players on the team than he is right now. It's kind of a shame he's kind of looked at underneath them, but he's a huge factor in this starting lineup for sure.
Oh yeah,
and this is like what I meant. Like this is what I meant by a run. Like this starting lineup can go like long periods of time. Like they're going only like 30 minutes, 28 minutes like each. But I feel like they can each go like 35, 40 minutes if they need to.
Oh yeah, when it comes to playoff time and the starters are playing, not full 48s but like 40 minutes. I mean, this team is going to be one of the most formidable. They're very young. I mean, other than Redick, it's still a young team. Jimmy Butler, later 20s. Even Tobias Harris.
He might not come back. That's a big question mark. But I can see him returning definitely to the 76ers if they make a run in the playoffs. And like you said, J.J. Redick may be a little up there in age, but you need a veteran presence in that team, and he's a perfect veteran.
And he's a shooter. Yeah. With Ben Simmons not being a shooter, Redick is a good.
Did you see the jokes he got for shooting a three the other day?
I did, yes.
There were jokes all over the place. I didn't expect it to be that harsh. I was like, oh, he shot a three, and then people just got on all over him. I was like, oh, that's a little harsh.
So the Sixers played twice this last weekend, and most notably yesterday, they played the Lakers, and they scored 143 points. It was a close game at halftime. I mean, they were winning, but I think it was like an 8 or 9 point
They
game.
really pulled away with it. Like the Lakers, like Kuzuma had 39 points, and he's been doing pretty well in my opinion. He's been doing great. But, man, this team just is like with LeBron James, he only had 18, 10, and 9. And that's a good stat line, no doubt. But for him, that's pretty low in my opinion.
Yeah, big time. So it's a big-time game for the Sixers because they will give up points. And as you look at the standings, as you look at the teams around them or ahead of them, their defense is maybe the worst, at least in giving up the most points, but they are scoring more than the other teams too. So they're going to be playing high-scoring games.
And that's how you win games, score more than the other team. But tomorrow they play the Celtics, which is a huge test to their lineup. I think that I would say their biggest test to their new starting lineup as of right now, would you say? And like the Celtics are coming off that 28-point lead they blew against the Clippers where they got booed out of their own arena, which is kind of a I thought that was like, that's something you would never have guessed that how that all went down, just how they blew that lead. And this team, like, and then you see Marcus Morris say, this team's not happy, this team's not having fun. And that, I just have question marks about the Celtics. I know they're still playing well, but I mean, their chemistry, their momentum, their everything else, like their feelings, their moods. This is all big question marks to me, which will affect them in the playoffs, I feel.
Yeah, it just hasn't been the type of breakout season that they were anticipating. This is a team that almost made it to the NBA Finals last year without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, and you figure, we're going to get these two guys back. They're, the two studs on our team. But, Hayward's gone through his rehab, and he's been slowly trying to recover what he lost with that major injury that really just can't be understated. It can't be overstated. He was such a good player before that injury. I mean, obviously, he signs that big free agent contract, and he's been nowhere near that guy. I mean, he's shows flashes here and there of getting back to it, but he looks like he's just lost a step, and we'll see if he can recover. But
you can understand also, like you said, that injury.
Yeah, you can recover, but all sympathy aside, like it is what it is. Like he's just not the player that they signed because of that injury. And then Kyrie, I feel like he's been really good, but the Celtics, it's kind of a problem where I know it sounds weird to say, but it's almost like they have too many good players. Like they need to have less good players and more great players because they have guys that don't see as many minutes as they should.
Good but not great. They need great to win.
Yeah, because in the NBA you need great players. Talent is so crucial in the NBA. It's a sport where like coaching and tactics mean less than other sports do. Like in football. In football, the Patriots won the Super Bowl. A lot of people would argue that they weren't the most talented football team this year, right? Like in basketball, that team doesn't win. In basketball, the best team wins, or the team with the best player wins. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And that's what it is. And
since there's only 5 guys on the court at one time for your team, you have to have all the best possible players. You can't have a weak
strategy can make a difference. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying coaching is worthless in the NBA, but the fact is that talent rises and talent wins out. So when you have a team like the Celtics who got 10 good players, but then you got this other team that has 3 or 4 great players, they're not as deep as the Celtics, but their top-level talent's better. That team's going to win in a 48-minute game where the starters are playing 40 minutes, you know?
Right, exactly. And that's why I think the Sixers are going to make a deep run in the playoffs because they have that.
The Celtics are such a deep team, but they just don't have, like, Tatum's a good player. Horford is a good player. Irving is a star. Kyrie Irving is a bona fide star in this league. Tatum is not a bona fide star. Hayward is not a bona fide star.
Give him some time.
I am. I'm not saying he can't be, but I'm saying today they're a step behind the Sixers and other teams because they basically have 1 star and then about 8 good players. That's how I view the Celtics. 1 star, 8 good players. The Sixers have 3 or 4 stars. You know?
I see what you're getting at.
The Raptors have at least 2 stars. At least Kyrie and Kawhi. Giannis on the Bucks, and maybe the Bucks don't have. Maybe the Bucks are very Celtics-like, where they don't have really more than 1 guy.
But they have one
Giannis
megastar.
is such a good guy, like such a good player that he plays like 3 positions for them. Like he is,
he's a LeBron.
He's a movable part. Yes, like you need Giannis to cover the point guard. You need him to cover the center. He can do it all. Like the guy can literally cover,
and can only get better if he puts his mind to it.
Exactly. So
I understand what you're getting at, and the Celtics are a big question mark to me. And it's so weird how we were saying like this team was going to be the team of the East. Like no one was to be able to beat them. This team could.
Yeah, they've been set up for years and years and years. But I think that's why they're looking to trade in and maybe get a guy like Anthony Davis in the offseason. Trade in some talent. And
they'll also have to get their draft picks for him too. That's
sure, they'd have to give up a lot to get him. But I think that's why they're looking at that, right? They're trying to trade this good talent for a great player.
They have multiple picks in this year's draft. Do you think they'll give up some of this current year's draft for a Anthony Davis?
I feel like,
I know they have Sacramento and Memphis' draft picks. I think Sacramento's top 1 protected, and I think the other one's top 14 protected, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that.
I mean, they could give. I think that they're going to give the Pelicans I think they'll offer like a Tatum, Rozier,
they're gonna
Jaylen Brown, and 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, they're gonna have to destroy their team, and have to get rid of some draft picks. I understand Anthony Davis is worth that much, but it's basic. It's in theory, if that does happen, they got all these draft picks, they got all this talent just to get 1 superstar. So, but it is a superstar in Anthony Davis. I'm not taking anything away from me. I love Anthony Davis. I think he can be a huge factor with the Celtics. But there is also an issue. Kyrie Irving might be leaving next season. His contract's up. So if they don't re-sign him and they just have Anthony Davis is back to where he was on the Pelicans, just with the Celtics. So you need to keep Kyrie in order to go after Davis.
Right.
So they are in a tough spot here. Because the Knicks, like we talked about, can offer Kyrie a lot of money. Same with offer him max contract. The same with Kevin Durant. That's why people are saying they 2 are going to end up in New York together. Right. So there's multiple areas in where Kyrie can go other than to stay in Boston. So this is a tough spot for Boston to be in to get out of this hole in order to get Davis and keep Kyrie. So this is a very difficult time for Boston, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. Boston, they are looking at having to make some serious moves here in this offseason, I think. And, there's still time for them this season. It's not like they don't have a chance at all.
Oh, no, that's not. I'm not saying that at all. I think they're still a very talented team that can do well. I mean, they're still 5th in the Eastern Conference.
They're 5th in the East. Maybe they win a first-round playoff series. They're most likely going to play Indiana. If I had to guess how the standings will finish, Celtics will get 4th or 5th. Indiana will get the other spot. They'll play each other, and then I give the advantage to Boston in that series.
Do you see the 76ers going over the Pacers?
Yeah,
Is that
I think
how
the
that works?
76ers will finish 3rd. I could see the 76ers
Hey,
being
the Pacers
close.
are on kind of a big winning streak right now, so they're doing well even with the loss
The
of
Pacers
Victor
are
Oladipo.
doing very well. That can't
Yes.
be understated. But I do
Yes.
think that
the
we'll
loss
see,
of Victor Oladipo hurts, but they're still playing well.
we'll see a Sixers team, though, I think that will be closer to 1 and 2 rather than 4 and 5.
I agree with you, but again, how many? We have like 28 games left of the season, 26, something
Yeah.
around there. So there's still a lot of game, and then we still have the All-Star break and see how everyone go, because a lot can change after the All-Star break. That break can change a team's momentum for sure. So we'll see how everyone does after that. But bottom line is, I think the 76ers won the trade deadline by the looks of things and how I think it's going well for them. Again, they've won the last 2 games, I think, after the deadline. I think the only notable trades, like Markelle Fultz, they traded to Orlando, has not played yet, so we can't say anything about that. And there were other trades there that really don't really need to be discussed. So yeah, that's basically how it went down. But do you want to talk about Thunder and Rockets? Or do you want to go to a break first, then talk about Thunder and Rockets?
Let's go to a break.
All right, we'll go to a break, then we'll talk about Thunder Rockets and other notable games that have happened, including the number 1 seed getting beaten by 20 points. And we'll tell you who that number 1 seed is when we return.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We just finished talking about the 76ers and how they are basically winning the trade deadline at the moment. And also, I just got word the Raptors are going to get Jeremy Lin. Lin is finalizing a buyout with the Atlanta Hawks and expected to sign with Toronto. Just a little Linsanity
nice.
for you.
That'd be a nice pickup for the Raptors.
Yeah. I mean,
A bench
Linsanity.
score.
Yeah. It's really a shame what happened to him, like the Linsanity thing ending so quickly. But, you know, things come and go.
Really?
But-
a shame? What do you mean by that?
Just like I feel bad for him. Like that he was so hot at one time, one of the hottest commodities in basketball. You could arguably say like he was probably the most popular one. Like in like LeBron's talk, how insanely popular he was, and then he goes from like 6 different teams.
Yeah.
Just,
yeah,
you just feel. I just like
he was a sensation with the Linsanity craze. I mean, he was he's the first American of Chinese and Taiwanese
and
descent.
he came out of Harvard and all that good stuff. So there was still a lot of like all this stuff about him. So it just like you just wish for the best of a guy like that. And hope-
undrafted.
Yeah,
You know,
it's a great story. Is all, and it just he kind of went under the radar for a long period of time. And I think all the trading and signing with new teams really did a number on him. So hopefully he can do well with the Raptors. We'll see how that goes. But first, let's get right back into the Rockets and Thunder. Triple double versus versus 30-point man. Russell Westbrook did get the triple double, but I think the main story is Paul George of the Thunder out-dueling James Harden 117 to 112. George had 45 points and 11 rebounds, and Harden had 42 points himself. But I just can't get over like he only had 2 rebounds and 1 assist. So combining all his stats, it's just his second highest stat was his turnover rate, and that was 5. That was the most on his team. Does that worry you going into the playoffs with the Rockets, or no?
No. I mean, this is a normal James Harden game.
I mean, Russell Westbrook did have 10 turnovers himself. So
yeah, Harden has the ball. These guys have the ball so much that they're going to turn the ball over. I mean, 10 is a lot, yes, but like 5, I don't even know if 5 is a lot for how much Harden has the ball, to be honest with you, because he has the ball like
granted
more than half the shot clock in each possession. You know,
I just feel like the question remains: can he carry this team to he almost got to the finals in multiple times with the Rockets, but can he get them over the hump himself?
Not himself. I think he can do whatever he can. I think he does.
Chris Paul did have some contributes. He did 18 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists himself, which isn't bad. But I think he needs more help than that.
Yeah.
His starting small forward had no points and 7 rebounds in 36 minutes of play.
Yeah, and they brought in Shumpert, and he didn't really do a whole lot offensively speaking off the bench.
He's more a defensive guy anyways.
And honestly, Kenneth Faried has been a great find for them. I mean, they got him on the buyout market, 17 and 12 in that game. He's averaging a double-double since joining the Rockets. I really liked that signing because he is a very up-and-down player and can score a lot at the rim in terms of alley-oops and dunks and layups and things like that. So he's thriving there. I thought that was a good pickup. But they still are missing Clint Capella. I mean, Clint Capella getting hurt for them. They really had that inside-outside game with Capella and Harden. And yes, Harden's still scoring, but Capella would have big nights, and he was a big cog for this team. So they do have Paul back. They do have Gordon back, but they are missing their big man in the middle. So when Capella gets back, maybe it'll change things, but I think Harden's doing what he can with what he has, to be honest.
Yeah, true. And also, I got to ask the question. This was between two MVP candidates in Paul George and James Harden. Does this give Paul George a little bit of an edge in the MVP vote, or do you think it's still
certainly a good game for him on national TV? I mean, this was the national TV game, so going into it, obviously, maybe people were saying it's more Westbrook versus Harden, but Paul George was the best player in that game, so he made his presence felt. He's continuing to have a great season. MVP caliber. We don't know if it'll end with an MVP, but it's definitely MVP caliber.
I think he's in the running for it, definitely, because of the fact that there's so many other guys having a great season, like Giannis and Harden are also having great seasons and all that. But you can definitely put him in consideration for sure.
Absolutely.
Honestly, if you give it to him, I wouldn't be that upset. I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
He's having a great season.
Yes, he's revitalizing his career, honestly.
And
he kind of struggled last season.
OKC might be the team that would give the Warriors the most trouble in a playoff series just because Paul George and Westbrook are the Warriors are better on paper. Don't get me wrong. They'd be the heavy favorite. But of all the teams in the Western Conference, I'm trying to think which team might give the Warriors the most problem. Maybe it's OKC. I don't know. I really don't know. But they're making a case for it.
Yeah, the unfortunate part for OKC is they have 2 superstars while the Warriors have 5 on the court. That's where it where you say on paper it gets kind of lopsided. Because that's why the Golden State Warriors are so good right now, is because you can isolate one of their players, a Clay, a Steph, a Durant, but then you also have to deal with Clay, Steph, or Durant. Like, if you freeze one of those guys, you have to worry about the other 2. So it's and then you have DeMarcus Cousins.
You start going down every other team in the Western Conference that is a playoff team, and it's like
they're not as deep in any way, shape, or form.
Well, that team has 1 star, that team has 2 stars, that team has 2, that team has 1, and then Warriors have 5. So
yeah, and it's just borderline unfair, in my opinion. But what are you going to do? The Golden State Warriors are still going to be the monsters of this league for years to come, honestly. And as for the Bucks, the first seed in the East, they lost by 20 against the Magic. Granted, they didn't have Giannis, but does this worry you? If is Giannis their only hope?
Yeah, I mean, if they don't have Giannis, I don't expect them to win very many games. So it was surprising how little they scored. I mean, 83 points in today's NBA, but then you look at the box score, they didn't play with Mirotic either. So they didn't have Mirotic or Giannis. They shot 17% from 3. They made 6 threes. They shot 32% from the field overall. That's all you need to know. If you're only hitting a third of your total shots and under a fifth of your threes, you have no chance of winning any basketball game. I don't care what level you're playing at.
Yeah. So with that, I have to add, Giannis needs to play basically every game, the whole game when it comes to playoff time, huh?
I mean, they can rest him and all that, but the Bucks are not going to win very many games when Giannis and Mirotic aren't playing. Mm-hmm. That's just a fact of the matter. I mean, Middleton's a decent player. Lopez is a decent player. Brogdon's a decent player. Bledsoe, Snell, but no, it's going to be tough in that circumstance. But yeah, it doesn't matter though. You shoot that bad, you can't win. So not just missing them, but obviously a lot of guys had off nights. I mean, you look at the box score: Middleton 4 of 17, Lopez 4 of 12, Brogdon 4 of 18. These are the starters. So I mean, you got 4 or 5 starters having bad games, having tough games. Going to be a tough night.
Yeah, definitely a concern if you're part of the Milwaukee Bucks, if you don't have Giannis there, because he's obviously the most crucial. But bottom line is they got to just bounce back from this, and they got to just stay in first. They still have the first place, not by much, but they still have first, so hopefully they can hold on to it. As their next game, I believe, is not today, but tomorrow. If I'm not, oh, no, not tomorrow. I'm sorry. Wednesday against the Pacers.
The Bucks play tonight.
They play tonight?
Yeah, they play the Bulls.
Oh, maybe that's why I forgot, because they're playing the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Bulls, but you're not good. But then their real test is Wednesday against the Pacers.
Yeah, should be a good game.
Yes. Anything else you want to add about any important games you want to talk about that happened yesterday or this weekend?
Well, we didn't really talk about the Lakers side of the Lakers-Sixers game, 143-120. Now, Magic Johnson was interviewed about the recent Anthony Davis negotiations, and, he stated that he didn't think the Pelicans negotiated in good faith. He thought that he basically was insinuating that, they were played a little bit, that he came to realize that the Pelicans were not going to trade Anthony Davis and kind of felt like he was being strung on all along. And then he talked about how the media was portraying, I guess, the Lakers' young players as like, young guys and not professionals. They are professionals and all that. So that was interesting to kind of see him face the media, I guess, in the public light for the first time since that everything went down. The Lakers, though, since the deadline, they got a big win against Boston where Rondo hits the game winner as time expires. And then they lose to a really good Sixers team. So I guess we'll see how this team bounces back.
Yeah, and that's how all this goes about, is bouncing back. That's just how it comes and goes. That's how it goes and goes. So that's how the Lakers have been doing. Still a lot of question marks about them after their poor trade deadline. Like you were saying, Magic Johnson was interviewed afterwards and seemed to be a waste of time, honestly. And then he was even talking to the Pelicans. But we'll see how the offseason goes, and we'll see if they in the summer they will try to go after Davis again. But this is a big, wherever Anthony Davis goes, automatically a contender. So that's why these are huge sweepstakes. That's why whoever he goes at the end of the season, if he does get traded, which I'm assuming is a formality, we'll see where he goes, because there's tons of talks of L.A., New York, Boston, all these other. There's so many options here for Anthony Davis, and whoever goes there definitely will be the favorite in their division or conference, wherever you want to put it. They will be one of the favorites to win, take it all the way home. But anything else you want to add about this weekend's games? Anything that caught your eye?
Kuzma has been playing well for the Lakers.
Extremely well.
He's been shooting the ball really well from the outside. We'll see how they navigate the West. I mean, right now they're 500, which is kind of weird to think about, but the Lakers are 500. A LeBron team possibly being under 500 is definitely interesting. So they do have some tough games ahead on their schedule, so they could slip under. We will see. But yeah, other than that, no, we're good on the Lakers. We're good on the 76ers. We can talk about Luka Doncic. He had a great fourth quarter last night. He definitely, his contribution, he took over that game against the Blazers. They end up winning. Man, he really buried them. But I liked again, another game where I come away with, man, this kid is good. He scored 28. But, yeah, he definitely takes over. The Blazers scored 9 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's not very good, is it?
No.
That answers that question.
9 points in a quarter. That It's single digits. Like, that's a weird sight
Single
to see.
digits, yeah.
That's a weird sight.
Yeah, that's not usual.
So basically, if they would have just scored like 11 points, they
And this
won.
is a team that's in the playoffs at the moment.
Yeah, so Portland drops to 33-22. Still definitely in the playoffs, but yeah, it's a loss that they will probably be scratching their heads about. Like, how did we lose having this big of a lead, up by 12 going into the fourth, and all that. So interesting. Lillard had a good game for the Blazers. I feel like the Blazers are still a very tough team to figure out. Like,
I agree with you.
I look at their roster, and I don't see a playoff team, but they're in the playoffs as of now, and they've been in the playoffs for a couple years now. So it's like
they're resilient. I give them that.
it is. C.J. McCollum 6 of 17, 0 of 5 from 3 yesterday. Really bad shooting performance from him. Yeah, Portland. They're a team to keep your eye on. I wonder what the future holds for them. But over on the other side, I mean, we talked about it. Luka, 38 minutes, 9 of 20 from the field, but he definitely took over the game at the end. 28 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, unless the dude gets hurt or something like that, he's going to win Rookie of the Year. Like, I think it's foregone conclusion. He's still a huge favorite. And he just keeps showing every game why he's that good.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. And it's
I mean, 28, 9, and 6, and it's like, good game, you know?
when you have 28 points and it's that's impressive.
He had
That
a
means
couple
you're
step backs.
that
in
means
crunch
you're
time.
that means you're at a level above many others.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing but good things to say about him. He's excellent. So let's say should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Sure. When we come back, we'll talk more about the world of NBA. If anything else notable, we'll add.
Talk about a matchup between the number 1 and number 2 picks in the NBA draft facing off against each other last night.
Yes, we can definitely do that. And we can do that right after this.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Let's do this thing right. I don't know why. I saw Shark Tale the other day, and I remember he says, "Let's get this party started."
I don't remember that. I haven't seen Shark Tale in a very long time, though.
I found it in a DVD player.
Oh.
Isn't that incredible?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Incredible.
In-
Just absolutely
Mr. Incredible.
Um,
Oh, you know Incredibles 2 is actually on Netflix now.
yes, it is.
I got hyped about that.
I saw it. I seen it. All right, so we got to talk about the number 1. We just talked about Doncic, so we got to talk about other rookies. The number 1 and the number 2 pick, DeAndre Ayton for Phoenix, and Marvin Bagley for the Sacramento Kings faced off yesterday afternoon in Sacramento. And the Kings take the win 117-104. And Marvin Bagley had a career-high 32 points. He was very efficient in his time. 32 minutes, 32 points, 10 of 15 shooting, 1 of 2 from 3, 7 rebounds. How do you assess Marvin Bagley's season so far as a Sacramento King?
I think he's definitely improved 100%. Like, he had a career high, like you said, 32 points, and with all of that, like, he kind of struggled at the beginning. He's been getting multiple double-doubles. He's been having a good season. Like, if Luka wasn't in the running, he might be going for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, definitely. DeAndre Ayton on the other side had 16 points and 9 rebounds in 32 minutes. He was 8 of 10 shooting. So DeAndre Ayton has been good, but do you think either of these teams are kicking themselves by not drafting Luka at this point?
The Suns are. I think the Kings are kind of happy with how Marvin Bagley's been contributing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously I think Luka would have helped both these teams a lot, but probably the Suns more so, yeah. Probably more so in that regard. So, with the Kings winning, they're now 30-26. They're in 9th place.
We are in an alternate universe, ladies and gentlemen.
They're in front of the Lakers. This is only the third time in the last 12 years that they've had 30 wins in a season. The last time that they made the playoffs was in 2006. They won 44 games. They're an interesting team. Are they going to make the playoffs, or do you see them on the outside looking in?
With what the Clippers did, getting rid of Harris, that window is open for the Kings, I believe. But I think they won't make it because the Lakers are still behind them, and there's still a lot of other teams that can get into the playoffs. But even if they don't get into the playoffs, I think this is a fantastic season for the Kings overall.
Oh, it's definitely way better than most people expected. The Vegas over-under for them, I think, was 25.
Yeah,
they're at 30, and there's about 27 games left for them.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That is a great turnaround.
So if you had the over, collect your winnings now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that just really shows the improvement of the Kings. And, like, they always were looked at the bottom of the barrel, now looking at 9th place, possible playoff spot. Nothing but good things to say about that.
So
it's almost in spite of management.
Here's the way I look at the West. I don't think that Dallas, Minnesota, or New Orleans will make a serious run at the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Dallas is at 26-29. Minnesota's at 25-30.
Next year, though, with Porzingis back, that team's going to be scary.
But we're just talking about right now. So,
I know.
So this is where I'm going with this.
Taking nothing away from them.
Dallas, Minnesota, and New Orleans are all 3 games or more under 500. Okay?
They're not.
The Kings are 4 games ahead of Dallas, 5 ahead of Minnesota. Sacramento and LA. Right now, the West is a 10-team race. LA is in 10th. They're 28-28, but they have the best player on the planet, LeBron James. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They're only 2 games behind the Kings. I think they do make the playoffs. I just don't see a LeBron James team unless he gets injured, and I mean injured. I don't mean like if he misses a week. If he gets
out for the season.
Yeah, if he misses, let's see, the Lakers have.
Well, the thing is, he was out for a long time with that groin injury, so that puts a big question mark on his health.
So the Lakers have 26 games left. If LeBron misses 10 or more games, they don't make the playoffs.
Okay.
If he misses less than 10, I still think they'll figure it out.
He's only recently back from that groin injury too.
Yeah.
So that's a serious. That might not be impossible.
Now the Clippers are holding the 8th position, but we know that they made trades, kind of not caring about making the playoffs. Maybe
Harris was the one that was like, they're not planning on winning right now. They're planning on signing someone big next season.
So their focus is not necessarily making the playoffs, although they will try. They're a Doc Rivers coach team. They're still a good team.
They can still make it.
I don't think they'll make it, but with that being said,
they could still make it.
With that being said, the Lakers, I think, will take the Clippers spot. So
they'll jump the Kings?
Well, in my opinion, I think for the Kings to make the playoffs, they have to finish strong, but they will need a San Antonio, a Houston, or a Portland to fall out of the playoffs. I think San Antonio is most likely one of those 3.
You don't see Portland?
Well, Portland right now.
I know how high they are in the seeding, but we talked about this. How they don't. I
think
seem
Portland's
like
a better team than San Antonio for sure. I think San Antonio's been playing above their head all season.
Do you have Lillard over DeRozan?
No, I just have. Well, probably yes, but I have. The Portland Trailblazers are a better basketball team than the Spurs. Mm-hmm. The Spurs have a great coach. Popovich is coaching them. If they make the playoffs, this is undoubtedly, in my opinion, the best year that Popovich has ever had as a coach.
Because the talent he has is limited.
There's just no way that a LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan, Rudy Gay basketball team should make the playoffs. Not when you have think about this. In today's NBA, your best three players, not one of them is even a decent three-point shooter. That's crazy. That's actually nuts.
But that's how talented Popovich is, though. That's just him.
Yeah, I agree.
Hall of Fame without question.
So for the Kings, I think they need the Spurs, and the Kings do hold the tiebreaker over the Spurs, by the way. They would need either the Spurs, the Blazers, or the Rockets to fall out. I say the Rockets because I don't know, man. I feel like they're a very volatile team. Harden's been
They were
working
too much
so
on him.
hard.
Oh, he can only. Oh, he's gonna collapse.
Maybe he gets hurt. Maybe he just runs out of gas early, before the playoffs. Last year, everybody said he ran out of gas in the playoffs. Maybe
I see what you're saying.
Maybe this year he runs out of gas.
Do you think he's working too hard on his stats?
No, I don't think it's I think what he's doing
It's not like padding.
I think what he's doing is he's ultimately trying to win. I don't think what he's doing is selfish. I don't think he's I need my numbers, I don't care if we win guy. I think he just really thinks, hey, I give our team the best chance to win when I score. And I think he's right. I do. That's just my opinion. But I do think that everything he does is for the betterment of the team. I do. I don't think he, kills the team with his decision-making. I think that the reason why they're as good as they are is because of him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with you.
They're just not that good of a basketball team. Let's be honest. The Rockets are just... We overrated them.
Yeah.
Chris Paul is older, hurt all the time. Eric Gordon, hurt all the time. They're just... We overrated them. That's our fault.
Yeah. We said how good Harden is. I think we just rated Harden as a team, not as the Rockets as a team. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we'll see what happens in the West. Obviously, it's the better conference and still the one conference where there's the most drama. You take a look at the East, and right now Detroit's in the 8th spot at 25 and 29. They're tied with Miami.
If you're on the outside in the West looking in, how mad are you that a team that below 500 is in the playoffs?
You know what's crazy is that Miami is now out of the playoffs if they started today. They barely lost to the Kings and they barely lost to the Warriors in the last couple days. They almost beat the Warriors more than they almost beat the Kings, honestly. Well, they were ahead of the Kings for a good bit. The Kings needed a 19-2 run to win that game.
That's
and they
true.
got it. And the Warriors...
They weren't ahead until the end of the game.
I thought Deion Waiter's shot was going in against the Warriors, honestly. I thought he made it, and then he missed, and the game's over. But again, they pushed the worst to the brink. Dwayne Wade, I think, is playing good basketball right now. I know this is his farewell tour. I still think they get in over the Pistons. What do you think?
Depends on how Blake Griffin finishes, in my opinion. Because he's had a 50-point game this season. He has been able to carry the team to victories in some situations. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to leave him out of it yet. But I see either Miami or Detroit taking it. It all depends on how they finish.
So who do you like?
If I had to make a pick?
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go with Detroit. I don't really know why, honestly, but I just have this gut feeling that Detroit's just going to finish better than the Heat do, because since this is Dwayne's farewell tour, I think he's going to get too many minutes, and I know he's playing well right now, but I don't think that's going to last for very long.
The crazy thing about Miami is that they're 11 and 16 at home, but they're 14 and 13 on the road.
Doesn't make any sense. How are you better on the road?
Usually that means that you're a good team. If you have a winning record on the road, that usually means you're a good team, but they're below 500 even though they have a winning away record. Now that is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the odder things that you'll see when you look at the standings is the home road splits. Like Detroit, for example. Detroit is 9 and 16 on the road, but 16 and 13 at home, which makes sense because they're kind of a below average team, which means they're relatively good at home and poor on the road. But yeah, Miami's completely different. But I think that does say that Miami's a well-coached team when you have a good record on the road. And I think that'll correct itself. I do expect them to be – I think they'll have at least a 500 record at home by the season's end. They still have 15 home games left. So majority of their games are at home remaining. I think that they'll probably put some games together. They also are on a tough road trip right now, playing some Western Conference teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like I just said, it's all about finishing. And honestly, whoever does make it, whether it's the Heat or the Pistons, do we even see them getting past the first round?
No.
So does it really matter?
No,
I hate
play
to say
Milwaukee.
it. Yeah. I don't want to sound like a downer, but I'm just saying, like, regardless, you're going to have to play Milwaukee.
I think Charlotte and Brooklyn.
Wait a minute, I just noticed something. Milwaukee Brewers made it to the NLCS and almost made it to the World Series. Now the Bucks may make it to the NBA Finals. So we have there are only two sports franchises that I'm aware of. Might have.
No, you're talking about Wisconsin's proudest franchises? And the Packers fans are like, what the heck?
Yeah, well, Milwaukee has only those two teams, correct? I don't think they have anything else.
Right.
So that could be exciting for this city. They almost make it to the World Series in a Game 7, which maybe they should have won. Who knows? But maybe the Bucks make it to the finals.
Yeah, for sure.
Good for Milwaukee. You don't get much except for alcohol because your team name for the baseball team is Beers.
The Brewers, man. The Brew Crew.
And then basketball team's name is the Beers. That team's a dynasty, though. That Milwaukee Beers team in the basketball league is a dynasty.
So we got to talk about Wes Matthews signs with Indiana. He was bought out. He signs with Indiana. We have learned that he was given a starting role, and that was ultimately the biggest factor in why he signed with the Pacers over.
Well, losing Oladipo, they needed someone at that caliber, so it makes sense.
Yeah, do you think this helps him, or do you think this makes a difference to what their stature is in the East?
I still think they're a very good team in the East with that Oladipo, but Oladipo made them into a serious contender, and regardless who replaces him, I don't think he's going to put the same impact as he did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Victor Oladipo is really good, and they, to their credit, they've been playing well without him. Like, to their credit, the Pacers have trucked along. They haven't made any excuses. They haven't put their heads down. They're winning basketball games. They're a really good team. So we'll see what happens for them upcoming. To go back to Dwayne Wade, I really want him to make the playoffs. Like,
just
even if he
last
loses,
time.
I want him to be in the playoffs. Even if he loses in the first round of Milwaukee, I just want to see him play. And he's been good lately. He was good against Sacramento the other night.
He's going to go, you know what? I'm not retired. I'm going to stay another year. Hello, Brett Favre.
You talked about Jeremy Lin signing with the Raptors, right?
Yes. No,
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Very briefly.
I like that signing for them. I do. What about Nick Stauskas traded 3 times this week, and then he
goes
signs
back
with the
to a
Cavs?
team he got traded on.
Yes.
Like, what?
Salary cap
It
rules.
doesn't make any sense.
Salary cap rules make for some weird trades and decisions.
You get traded 3 times, and then one of the teams that traded you in the middle of all that nonsense wants you back. It's like, what? That I've never heard that happen before ever, though. I've never seen a team go back to a guy like that before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not even that good. Hate to tell you, Nick Stauskas, you're drafted because Ron Adive had a infatuation with you and overhyped you by calling you Klay Thompson body, Steph Curry shooting, and kind of made you into what you are now, and that's just a journeyman. Nothing more.
He started off the season with the Blazers shooting pretty well.
Yes, he was pretty positive with the Blazers.
He was like a decent player for them off the bench.
Yes, he's a great bench player.
Did you hear about what the Knicks did with their season ticket?
They removed KD from their...
So there's an image in their season ticket holder or flyer package, whatever, and it was their young player Mitchell Robinson playing next to Golden State Warriors player Kevin Durant in a pitch to season ticket holders. Was that a calculated move or what? Or pure coincidence?
I don't know. It sounds like it wasn't a coincidence, though. To me.
Mm-hmm.
The reasoning seems like
the Knicks put out a statement, and this is what they said.
All right, let's hear this.
Game action photos are used all the time for marketing purposes, but given everything going on, we took the precaution of taking the photo down. To be clear, it was one of several rotating photos on the website. What do you think about that?
I think that's saying, hey, an excuse.
Yeah. It is interesting, to say the least. Anyways, anything else you'd like to add for today's version of the GSMC Basketball Podcast? Which will now be coming at you 3 times a week instead of 2.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
Yes. And as always, my name is Jeff Melanoff. That name over there is Mark Souza. We hope you enjoyed our GSMC Basketball Podcast for the day, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.